So let's look at today's lesson. It's called selecting a sample, and this is when we want to decide who's going to get our surveys when we're doing a survey. So we have to make a decision and not just randomly hand them out. So a sample is a representative of the population if it contains the same characteristics in the same proportion as the population. So remember we said let's say if we know that TL Kennedy has half boys and half girls, and we have a sample, let's say we take a sample of 50 people, okay, then we would decide that 25 were girls and 25 were boys. Okay, so that would be representative of TL Kennedy, not having more or less of one or another. Okay, a sample is random if every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected, has an equal chance. That's the important word here. So we want to say, for example, like a draw. If you put your name in a hat and you have a draw, then you have an equal chance as everyone else of being selected to do a survey. So let's say when you put your name in a hat, and what should we say? Name, if you put your name in a hat and 10 people are selected, and let's say, and 10 people are, I'm going to use the word that's in here, which I really shouldn't do in a definition, but 10 people are randomly selected. Randomly selected. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what that definition means. Okay, let's look at some of these examples and see what type of different sampling methods we have. So we have a simple random sample. This is the most reliable sampling method whereby each member of the population will be assigned a number and then random numbers will be chosen and those will be selected from the population. So an example of that is when you get a ticket with a number on it. So a ticket, let's say ticket numbers are drawn. Ticket numbers are drawn. Okay, so let's say everybody in the room gets a ticket, and then the teacher draws a certain, calls out number 9, number 25, number 13, and then those people will be selected to do the survey. Okay, a systematic sample is every nth number or member of the population is selected. So this means, like, let's say you live in an apartment building and you can't go, let's say there's 100 apartments and you can't go to every one. So let's say you choose every fourth apartment, okay, or you go to every fourth door. So you choose every fourth apartment in a building. And then you ask them to, you're filling out a survey or you're asking them a question about something. So that way you'd get a good selection. Okay, what's a cluster sample? Every member of a randomly chosen subgroup of a population is part of the sample. So let's say we want a cluster would be like, we want to just ask something that is only specific to teenagers. So let's say just asking teenagers. So let's say just asking teenagers. Okay, maybe the survey is about lateness or getting to school on time or something like that. Is something to do relevant only to teenagers. So we wouldn't ask seniors or adults, right? So let's say just asking teenagers. Let's say the topic is about something about school. It could be about lateness or something like that. Okay, stratified random sample. The population is divided into subgroups and a random sample is taken proportional to the size of the subgroup. So an example of this is like when we said boys and girls. But let's say in TL Kennedy, let's say that we know 60% are boys, and let's say we know that 40% are girls. Okay, And my sample is just going to have 10 people in it. So my sample, let's say my sample has only 10 people. I only want to choose 10 people to do my survey, okay? So if I want to keep in tandem with the real population of TL, then I would choose 6 out of those 10 would have to be boys, and 4 would have to be girls, okay? So notice that it's still 60% boys and 40% girls, and that's what the real population is of the school. So sometimes it's not always 50-50. Okay, that's what proportional means. It says take proportional to their size. The sample is taken proportional to the size, so that's important right here. Okay, so maybe underline that. Okay, convenience samples. Certain members or subgroups of population are selected. So let's say something um, like senior citizens. So let's say we want to talk to just senior citizens because senior citizens because the issue is just to pertain to senior citizens. Something, let's say, asking senior citizens about retirement issues, about something about retirement. Retirement. Okay. Um, Oh, and so that means how is this one different from this one? So we better add something to this cluster sample. This cluster sample means just asking teenagers, okay, every member of a randomly chosen subgroup. So that means I would say I'm going to choose, let's say I'm going to choose grade nines, but that means I have to ask all grade nines, ask all grade nines. Okay, so that's what the subgroup means. You choose a group out of the whole bunch, but then you ask everyone. Okay, see it says every member. You ask every member. Okay, so that's how those two are different because those two are a little bit similar. Okay, self-selected, only volunteers. So this is like, remember we talked about everyone calls in a radio show. So you call in to a radio show and then you give your opinion. Call into a radio show and give your opinion about an issue. Give opinion about an issue. Okay, so maybe sometimes radio stations do that. They have to call in about stuff, right? Okay, let's have a look at this one. So here we got a couple of examples, the last 3 examples, and we want to decide what type out of those last ones we had. So let's look at the example. Researchers want to determine which team Canadians think will win the World Series this season. They sent out questionnaires to 100 companies, chosen randomly from a list of Canadian businesses. Anyone who works at the company can complete the questionnaire. So that sounds like it's cluster, because you're choosing um, a set of companies. Okay, they sent out questions to 100 companies. So that's not all the companies, but they picked 100 companies. Okay, and anyone who works there can complete the questionnaire. Okay, so it says anyone. It sounds a bit like volunteer as well because not everyone. Um, it could be volunteer as well because people would volunteer, right? Okay, and let's look at this one. To determine which candidate students at a local high school will support for student council president, you use random numbers to select one class from each grade, then use random numbers again to pick 5 students from each class to complete a survey. So that sounds like the stratified sample. Use random numbers again. And it could be the one that we talked about where we're using we're drawing numbers from a hat, so it could be stratified, but it could also be the random sample. The random sample. So sometimes these are hard to figure out, or there's a bit of overlap. Okay, because you're using random numbers to select one class and then using random numbers again to pick 5 students. So it doesn't say exactly, but maybe they're drawing names out of a hat or something like that. Okay, but they are making groups as well. Okay, and then this one's easy. To determine the strength of an aluminum extension ladder produced by a company, every 100th ladder is tested. So that's easy because you can see this one here. Okay, it's the one that was systematic. Systematic. And that one shows us